back to the Zoom and turn on your cameras because we are live streaming it in our YouTube. And now the MC would like to give a few words. So Eltabel, I will give the floor back to you.
Okay, thank you, Maura. I think I'm going to wait everyone to open their camera. The committee, the debaters, all debaters, and observers. And if the adjudicators could open their camera, please open your camera. Okay, good afternoon, honorable adjudicators, debaters, members of the committee, and fellow observers. Welcome to the final round of the English debate at Bazkom Spestasia. My name is Elsabel or Abel, and I'm the Master of
Recording in progress.
Before we go on, we want to say thank you to Wall Street English. Wall Street is an English course with 460 learning centers in 28 countries, including Indonesia. Sponsored by Wall Street Indonesia, all debaters will get a free trial and discount class from Wall Street English Indonesia. And the champions will get an IELTS voucher mock test. So don't forget to utilize the opportunity wisely. On behalf of the committee, I would like to say that we are genuinely satisfied with yesterday's and prior event. And we appreciate your punctuality in attending today's event. Everything went well, especially from the debaters who performed their best. And we really appreciate such competitive yet sportive competition. Before we continue, for all participants, please don't forget to rename your Zoom username as written in the terms and conditions. And please open your camera. Okay, moving on to the final round, I'm giving the floor back to the moderator.
Thank you so much, Elsabel, for the words. Now for the debaters, DPD whips and orangutan, please open your cameras so we can start the competitions.
All right, audible. Sorry.
Yes.
Yes. Before the round starts, can I go to the toilet first for a second?
I'll give it to Kak Jessica.
Sure. And also, I think there might be an audio problem with your audio. There's
your mic is
double.
Going.
Oh, okay. I'll change the device.
Test. Is it audible now?
Yes, it is audible.
Okay.
All right, so now let's start the debate. Good afternoon, everyone. Today's final round of debate will be discussing under the motion, this House regrets the use of pop culture as soft diplomacy. Your time for substantive speech is 7 minutes and 20 seconds. For reply speech, you will get 4 minutes and 20 seconds. For POI, you have 15 seconds. Please turn on your camera throughout the whole of the competitions. I will start my share screen. Okay, first, Let's call upon the first speaker from the government side of the house. The floor is yours.
Okay, yeah. If you want to do POI, just unmute yourself because I won't be looking at the chat box. Gender perfect pronoun she, they. I'm going to start my speech in 3, 2, 1. We live in a world where diplomacy to be pragmatic is really needed. Now, we live in a world, right? So what is the definition of soft diplomacy? We say soft diplomacy is a method of approaching or co-opting, but without the military and also politics intervention. For example, you want to co-opt with other country, but you don't want to coerce. You don't want to do like hard diplomacy, for example, like military and also politics, right? Now, what is the goal or stance that the government side of the house proposed in the table right now? We want to eliminate pop culture from the soft diplomacy it is. Now, what is our mechanization in this debate? Firstly, we will let them choose to pick any approach, either soft diplomacy or hard diplomacy, according to what they want and what they actually think it's more beneficial and pragmatic, right? But what the thing we want, secondly, is we want to eliminate the pop culture from the soft diplomacy. Thirdly, our alternative are other kind of diplomacy only, that there is no option using pop culture. Now, moving to my arguments. Firstly, I'm going to talk about why is it unjust to use pop culture as soft diplomacy and why we are better in bringing this diplomacy, right? Now, firstly, let's talk about the interest of the artist. Firstly, panels, I think when we're talking about artists, they dive into pop culture or even the industry. It was never their inherent interest to dive into politics, right? What is their inherent interest, right? What they wanted was simply to entertain and show their feelings or identity or bring some moral motivations and also some message towards the fans or towards the listeners or towards people who enjoy this arts, right? What they want to bring. Now, secondly, we say by using pop culture as a soft diplomacy, they're going to be pressured. These artists are going to be pressured, and this is morally unjustified. Because one, why are they going to be pressured? Because one, they're going to be pressured because they are pressured to attract other countries. This is bad because they are expected to influence other country. This is also bad because this is limiting their free will because most likely they're doing this with no valid consent. If they did not accept and they are not consented towards being a part of the diplomacy, they will be told by the society of that certain particular countries that they're not being patriotic, right? They don't love their own country. And they will be canceled by the by the society, right? Noticing on how cancel culture, for example, like let's just bring cancel culture in Korea is really, really that bad, right? This cancel culture impose horror towards these artists so that they do based on the interest of what the externalities want them to be. And this is really, really unjustified. Thirdly, art's supposed to be unlimited, right? The definition of art itself, it's supposed to be something that can be enjoyed by all people. No, thank you. Enjoyed by all people, and it's supposed to be unlimited, right? But this pressure coming from the society is just harming their free will, right? As a people, as a person, and it's morally unjustified. Secondly, I'm going to talk, but even if they're not pressured and they choose even if you're not pressured and you choose not to have diplomacy, they are going to be ostracized for simply not loving their country. I've told you that before. That you are expected to attract countries
Point, ma'am.
you don't want. No, thank you. And you don't want, right? Your artist being pressured like that because you feel you're not ready for it. They were never trained for it. They were only trained as a singer and as a dancer, or even as a someone who makes music, someone who makes films, and which is their passion, right? They never had the passion or the interest in diplomacy or in
Point,
politics.
ma'am.
Thirdly, we want people who are devoted to just politics only. We don't want to pressure people who simply have no interest in that for other people. Thirdly, I'm going to talk why does this implicates to. First, this incentivizes to people become aspiring artists because now art and pop culture is going to be something really sensitive, right? Since we're talking about politics that talks about multiple stances of people and identity of people, that if you take a wrong stance, you're simply going to be hated by all people. For example, like how you're going to be called out in the internet and the social media and everywhere, right? And the fact that a lot of people like K-pop is because they don't see any sense in K-pop. They see K-pop, they see Hollywood as a true art, as something that everyone can enjoy without limitation. All your society can actually access that. It's accessible and it's enjoyable for all people. And it's purely for entertainment purposes. This will make artists
Point,
don't
ma'am.
want to join pop culture and express themselves. No, thank you, please respect me. Themselves, like what is going to happen, right? We say if you use this pop culture as a diplomacy, this pop culture is really going to degrade, right? I'm going to talk about the degradation of the pop culture itself. This pop culture, we say, is going to be used as a parameter to attract countries, right? That's where, when you realize that a pop culture consists of people's identity, what represents a country and its identity, right? Because it's a form of expression. But when the country use pop, but when the pop culture of a country is being rejected, this is going to be like a backlashing moment, right, for the country. And we say pop culture, when you impose pop culture as a diplomacy, right, when you use pop culture as a diplomacy, pop culture will be something really serious. It's going to be something that having a stance, and it's not going to be something really enjoyable again for all people who are probably having neutral stance, right? This pop culture is going to be very
Point,
sensitive
ma'am.
and problematic and controversial, please. And so these people cannot do music freely. They will lose their free will in doing music, right? Whereas we have already told you the inherent value of a pop culture is actually just for entertainment purposes, right? Comparatively, under our side of the house, we only impose artists to do whatever they want. We say we provide better will for the artists. We provide better society for the artists because they can do what they want to do. And also, other than that, it also degrades the value of pop culture itself, right? That pop culture that supposedly have this altruist value. For example, you do something with altruistic motivation in it, with altruistic notes in it. You have to do arts. Comparatively, under your side of the house, you only do arts that are only related towards the diplomatic activity, right? And it's likely for a pop culture to be rejected, because if your culture is going to put a liberal stance, all the conservative stance people are going to degrade that pop culture for not having the same sense, right? People are going to backlash. People are going to call out here the pop culture itself when they don't feel like they're in the same sense. Now, let's take a look what is going to happen on our opposition side of the house, under our side of the house and opposition side of the house. Under our side, pop culture is going to be only viewed by just the entertainment, but comparatively under side opposition, it's going to be viewed also through a political point of view, which is not healthy at all. That literally, if I have a liberal stance, most likely you won't like a conservative stance, right? And this is likely because that's how politics works. When you use pop culture, your songs and movies are going to be integrated with stance of people. And by those reasoning, I'm really proud to propose this motion. Thank you so much.
Thank you. The speaker spent 7 minutes and 26 seconds. Next, I call upon the first speaker from the opposition side of the House. The first speaker from the opposition side of the House.
I'm audible.
Yes, you are audible.
I will start my timer first. I will start my timer first. Okay. I'm audible.
Yes, you are.
Okay, so I prefer for you guys to unmute yourself for the POI just throughout my speech. My gender pronouns is he, him. And I will start my speech in three. I will start my speech in 3, 2, one. Panels, notice that side proposition doesn't give us any alternative for they doesn't give us any alternative on what on they only like showing us like the harms that on what this pop culture doing in the soft diplomacy, right? So and just before we move on, I have a rebuttal towards side propositions, right? Notice when they say, oh, these artists are going to be pressured, right? It limits their free will, forcing the idols or the artists, for example, to respond to this. First, we don't see how this will happen because they are not on a specific in a specific mission in order to do a soft diplomacy. It's because they are already famous in the very first place, and they are seen by countries around the globe, for example, and they are not in a specific mission to be in a soft diplomacy, right? Secondly, don't you think that when Hollywood interviews their actors and actresses, they already give them a precautious, right? That like, for example, this is a movie that has soft diplomacy in it. This means that they are prepared to face the consequences, right? So where do we stand on today's debate, right? We are here to have a, we want the better for the country, right? Not only that, we want a better world basically to live in. I will talk about two things on today's debate. Firstly, on how this is on how this will benefit the country more, and secondly, on how this how this is how this is the way more better thing to be implemented, right? Firstly, on how this will benefit the country more. So you see that some countries are having a bad stigma from things they did long time ago, right? For example, Americans view Muslim as a terrorist. It means that we need to have a good, like, basically, we know that this Muslim countries is not a terrorist, right? It's not a bad country. It means that we need to have culture in order for the world to notice, right? And soft diplomacy is the way. And secondly, we want the world to be more peaceful. Panels, notice there are a lot of tensions happening because countries such as America that view Middle Eastern, as I mentioned before, aka Muslim majority countries, as terrorists. Thus, they approach them as in their mean, right? We concede to the fact that trigger warning 9/11 happens, but panels do notice that this way, this was no way for them to discriminate and generalize that all Middle Eastern countries are mean. This is going to make a long-term hatred created under their side. They don't have the platform to be friends with other countries, but even if because we don't see any alternative, right? We assume that their only alternative is hard diplomacy. Then no peace could be achieved if they keep refusing the fact that humans are evolving, right? And notice on how we will actually fix this underside oppositions. If you're doing it in a hard diplomacy, this will work. This will worsen.
Why?
If you're doing it in hard diplomacy, this will worsen this. No, thank you. This will worsen the stigma that these countries already have. For example, as I mentioned before, like the 9/11, or like these countries who are known as invaders in the past, right? But even if they don't have a bad stigma, this is still a bad thing for these countries because they will be seen as a country who doesn't embrace world peace, right? Even if the bad stigma still happens from the bad portrayal on Hollywood and K-pop, for example, there will be at least no casualties, right? Rather than diplomacy, for example. Even if they do discriminative acts, for example, if a Korean American person get killed in America, those people who like K-pop and like that culture will speak up about it, and this will lead into, like, for example, hashtags of Asian hate campaign to be more empowered on our side, right? This is true because notice that first, people are entertained by K-pops in Hollywood, right? No, thank you. The amount of attention that you will get will actually skyrocket, right? Secondly, this is true because we see that people love peace, right? People want a calm and peaceful life, right? Thus, doing it in a hard way is not the best choice, right? And you see on how this. No, thank you. Of course, if you did something bad in the past, for example, and you did it again, you will destroy your image even more, right? What we believe here is people do change. These countries are indeed, for example, in the past are invaders, and this is totally important because we want to save lives, right? Priceless souls. We want to save lives. That souls are priceless, and we can still achieve benefits that the country will get, but also in a much better way, which I will explain to you in my second point, right? onto my second point on how this is actually better to be implemented, right? Notice on how the world is evolving, right? Notice that by using this K-pop and Hollywood in a soft diplomacy, it is actually in globalization. Notice how the word revolves, right? The word globalizes.
UI?
Notice on how this soft no, thank you. Notice on how this soft diplomacy and like K-pop on Hollywood will actually make more people to be interested, right? Because of how the interests of people are actually changing because of the globalizations, and this will result in a world peace, right? This is obviously important because we don't want any more hard diplomacy to happen. Human over human is enough, right? Don't you like tired seeing like this war happening again and again within our world, right? So no, thank you. You see that this obviously will actually benefit the country more, right? We don't see on how these artists are going to be pressured at the very first place, right? We see, but what we see is that this K-pop and Hollywood is what is trending right now, or like in line much within the globalization, right? This will attract more people to like as attract people as the goal of the diplomacy, right? So I have proven to you that under side oppositions, we aren't actually going to pressure this artist, but we will going to attract more people. Not only that, we are regretting the hard way to actually be implemented within these countries, and I have also proven to you on why this is true, and how important is this for the world, right? Because of that, very proud to
All right. The first speaker from the opposition side of the House spent 7 minutes and 9 seconds. Next, I call upon the second speaker from the government side of the House. The floor is yours.
Check, am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Okay, so this give me a second. I'm gonna set up my timer. So preferred pronoun is here. Him, preferred PI method through chat. Please don't unmute yourself. I don't want any sound pollution. I will actually offer one POI before I move on to the second part of my speech. So don't worry. And then, yes, basically don't unmute yourself and please be mindful in giving POI. Okay, so I'm gonna start my speech in 3, 2, panels, notice that this debate should be talking about whether or not we will actually use the K-pop or the pop culture as a way to actually to do the soft diplomacy. Like it's not about soft diplomacy versus hard diplomacy. So we don't really get why then under our side of the house all of other methods of soft diplomacy will suddenly disappear, right? It's not that we're gonna always use hard diplomacy. Other methods like negotiation, like actually using the economic policy and that kind of thing would still exist. So we said the whole argument of opposition is totally contingent to them shifting the discussion to soft diplomacy versus hard diplomacy. My prime minister has set this debate very clearly. It means that they're totally dismissive towards the characterization and they don't even understand the motion, right? But mess it up. So we say that like this shows, right, that side opposition is being negligent towards the government speech. Soft approach is not only pop culture. Note this, ladies and gentlemen. The motion only states that we regret the pop culture as part of the soft diplomacy, but we already stated that, right, that there are other choices that you can do as soft diplomacy. We didn't even force people to use hard diplomacy. So opposition, please take notes. So don't actually go away and try to shift the burden towards our side of the house, right? But just one response from towards my argument, right? They try to say, right, oh, they want to use the way as a way, they want to use K-pop or pop culture as a way to clean their image. They brought about 9/11 and so on and so forth, right? But fellows, I think that if a country really change, if they really respect the minority and if they really do something good, you can see the change through their policy, through how they carry towards the minority and so on and so forth. Like how, for example, if the United States really change, they can actually protect the minorities, like they can actually respect the rights of the Muslim and so on and so forth. You don't really need to actually show all of this through the pop culture, right, ladies and gentlemen? So really get the exclusivity. Why then using pop culture? It should be the only method for you to do diplomacy towards other countries, right? right? But what is more likely to happen under their side is a false representation, ladies and gentlemen. The characterization of pop culture is that they over-exaggerate. They try to only show the good parts of the country because that is how they will actually get the political power, how they will be supported by other country, right? They will only show the good parts and they will only hide all of the bad situation that happening in the country, like how the oppression towards minority, towards Muslim, how their rights are not being protected in the US will not be shown in Hollywood, right, ladies and gentlemen? They're gonna show that the situation has improved in the movies, in the pop culture, but that is not the real case, right? You're only giving a false hope to those people in the Middle East or in Muslim countries like Indonesia. You're trying to say, oh, Muslim is protected in the US, but that is not the case, ladies and gentlemen. You're just lying to them. It is totally evil and it's totally unjustified for you to use this kind of pop culture, because that is why because you're only like trick these people to move to US, and when they have come there, they will face discrimination and so on and so forth. You'll only create a false sense of hope to this kind of people. But even worse, you only like harm the image of your country in the end of the day, right? But now moving on towards my extension. But before that, any POI coming from opposition? 1, 2, 3. I assume there's
Sir,
yes.
how would you actually encompass the power that is already being so prevented under diplomacy under your side of the
Sorry. It's a bit like
Hello,
Yes,
am I audible?
yes.
How could you accomplish diplomacy under any other?
Okay, other methods do exist, right, ladies and gentlemen? Like how then you can actually negotiate with other country, like how you can actually show, right? Oh, how my country have changed, my country have protected the minorities. We say those countries also have the interest, like to work together and like to propose your agenda, because they actually understand about your ideology, how you have changed it before, how you can actually influence them through negotiations, through your economic policy, and so on and so forth. We don't really get why pop culture suddenly becomes like the most important thing that you need to propose. But then we address my argument. Let's explain about why it is totally unjustified on your side of the house, right? Fellas, I think that doing diplomacy and this kind of thing are totally the government's responsibility, right? It is never the artist's responsibility. Government have the responsibility like to make sure that all of their agenda could run, how they could work together with other countries, and so on and so forth. The problem is, under their side of the house, they utilize the artist, they utilize the K-pop singer, for example, as a way to gain political powers, right? The problem is K-pop artists, they work so hard to gain fans. They put blood, sweat, and tears to making songs, to learn dancing. Like, for example, K-pop artists, they train so hard, like even for years, even centuries, just to be able to debut, right, ladies and gentlemen? This proves to you on how then it is so hard for them to get into that high ladder of popularity, right? But then opposition just try to say, oh, they already get the popularity, so there is nothing, like we're not forcing them to do anything. But then you're actually forcing them to influence other people, right? You're actually forcing them to input the value of your country, so they could actually be a political capital for you to gain bargaining power against other countries, right? Which is totally unjustified. Like exactly because my first speaker explained to you on how then supporting political spectrum or supporting certain ideology is totally harmful towards the career of an artist. Like how when you take one wrong stance in political, you can be condemned by your whole fans. Like how when you support like how when, for example, they support the government of Korea, and then of course countries that don't have a same view with Korea, they will not let this artist to share their songs there, to sing there, and to perform there, right? It is inherently harmful, right? Because all of the popularity that they've gotten becomes nothing. They could not even get any more viewers on that country. It proves to you on how that is principally justified, because you're actually using the artist as a tool, right? Then why then the biggest question that might come from up is, why then the government will do this strict regulation towards those kind of artists, right? We said it is going to happen because now the artist or the K-pop artist will be seen as the image of the country. They'll be the one who is influencing the ideologies, influencing the programs, and so on and so forth. So the credibility of the country is totally contingent upon the artist. One wrong acts from this artist can actually harm the credibility of the country. Right? This is exactly why there's going to be a very, very tight supervision towards kind of artists. Like they will have a certain rules. What kind of song can you make? What kind of art? What kind of dance can you perform? Because if certain dance do not really align with the interests of the Korean government, for example, they will not allow it. But the problem is art should be subjective. Art should be something that you like, right, ladies and gentlemen. Even artists are limited in terms of their ideology, or even our artists cannot perform their own emotion or their own grievances. This is where then their rights are being taken away, right? This is a harm opposition need to actually defend, right? But then what K-pop consists of a lot of people, right, ladies and gentlemen. Government realizing on how they could become a very, very potential way of gaining political power, they will force everyone as a way to gain political power, right? So the freedom of more artists will be condemned. So in the end of the day, then you actually need to consider, right, that artists have different interests, they have different ideologies. Some are leftist, some are rightist, and so on and so forth. But the problem is, then the government who are reigning, they will actually force the artists to actually
promote the ideology that they have. Like for example, if they're a liberal government, you'll actually force the artists to promote the liberal kind of ideology towards their arts, so they can actually get more political power in terms of the diplomacy with other countries. Right? It is harmful, right? Because you actually harm the principle of the basic human rights to choose what they like, and basic human agency to choose something that they want. So K-pop are going to be generalized to have to pick a stance that might not be in line with them, and you have to support government's agenda as well. This impacts on forcing people identity totally unjustified, right? Because it doesn't give diplomacy where you're not actually giving them free opinion, in which the right of the artists, which are the most vulnerable actor who train so hard, will actually be utilized for the government. If you really care about the artist and the most vulnerable actor, vote for our team. Very proud to win this debate.
All right, the second speaker from the government side of the House spent 7 minutes and 20 seconds. Next, I call upon the second speaker from the opposition side of the House.
Wait.
The second speaker.
Hi. Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Great. Wait a second. Let me set my timer first. For POI preference, just please unmute your mic. I highly suggest you to do POI. With that being said, gender pronouns are he, him. Starting my speech in 3, 2, 1. Diplomatia dolce papmire na Bosnia akladivati prezivatska. Diplomacy should postpone, prevent, or provoke war as needed. Panels, we said there should be no more despair, no more casualties, no more blood, no more shootings, no more tanks landed on lands full of beings that just want to live their life peacefully. Side proposition refused to acknowledge the fact that they couldn't accomplish peace and better results of diplomacy under their side of the House. But before that, few responses towards side proposition, right? We said that firstly, from their first until their second speaker, in response to our case, they only said that basically we are seeing these kinds of artists as laborers. We said that under our side of the House, we never viewed these people as like laborers, right? They only told you that basically we are pressuring these artists to work for the government. Notice that my first speaker have already told you that these artists are already gaining a lot of attention and appeals worldwide because of their fame. It means that there is no coercion being put onto these artists. Notice that pop culture draws a lot of appeals under this side. By means, side government points false. But secondly, is that how they only told you guys, how the harsh generalization of artists itself. They say that the main idea of pop culture being implemented under soft diplomacy, they only say that, oh, the second speaker told you they will only show the good side and they don't know if the country is harming minorities. This engagement happens even better under our side of the House. We say, panels, under the table, we flip the case. How so? We're going to benefit more from actually implementing pop cultures in the very first place. Notice, if we are actually doing this kinds of case, we're exchanging cultures. How so? Panels, let's say on how people are learning Korean because of like BTS and K-drama. This means this only wouldn't benefit the country, but also it will benefit a lot of people because instead of seeing them as enemies, they could be friends. They could actually learn something from these countries, like that will never actually going to happen within negotiation. But secondly, how people want to study in Korea and go to Korea because they will know that Korea, what Korea really looks like inside of them. The one that is happening within side proposition is the alternative that they propose came in a really late situation in this debate. We say that third, questionable and little likelihood for them to actually succeed the diplomacy because their only point is that negotiation is implemented under their side. Not only that, the alternative is too late coming from side proposition. We say that this is the only thing that comes up within side proposition, and besides the fact that they said that we will only portray these artists as laborers to promote the country and in diplomacy itself. I'm going to engage this into 3 sectors. First, we think that it's weird. Notice that they said that they regret soft diplomacy, but it is not requittable to fulfill the requirements in response and how diplomacy would be done. We never say that. In opposed to that, they never actually mention on how these negotiations will necessarily work. This means their mechanizations of negotiation itself false. We say that their second speaker only mentions about negotiations is the only other way to do that. But at the same time, they never actually told you the benefit example.
These
Right? This means hi, I got disconnected. Can I like rephrase my phrase?
Yes, you can.
Okay.
Okay. You can start your countdown.
Okay. I'm gonna start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Continuing my speech on to the parallel examples on how these World War I and World War II negotiation is happening. Notice panel, negotiations has been the way of these people to actually solve problems. But up until now, war still happens, right? This means that it is really insignificant for them to actually propose the way of negotiations to fulfill the diplomacy under this country, under the globalization that happens in today's world. That means negotiation false. But not only that, we're going to actually merge on within today's scenario where our world is already being modernized, right? Our globalization do happen under our side of the house. We say that this pop culture plays a vital role in engaging to a vast spectrum of people in herds to actually how they could gain their appeals and etc. We say that these kinds of people could actually be getting attracted more by pop culture rather than negotiation. So their side of the house really needs to actually improve to you on how they will benefit their countries and also how they will actually benefits world peace even better under their side. Notice that under their best case and worst case scenario, it wouldn't happen anymore because we say that PM lacks of explanation to this. We say they want on to the hard path instead. But moving on to the extensions I'm going to say within this. We said that deep on analysis within this is that because we actually follow the modernization that happens within our world, that means we're going to actually be engaging towards the people that's already been inside of these countries, right? Instead of actually doing coercion and negotiation, even if the worst case underside proposition is that they wouldn't meet the consensus being made under diplomacy, that means our side of the house still win this debate. How so? Panels notice that they never actually explain to you the benefits of these people to gain, to profit, to benefit onto this case, right? But before going on to my other points, any POI? I'm going to count to 4, 1, 2.
Yes, am I audible?
Yes.
What is so exclusive of pop culture? Why then pop culture will become something that is so important that could actually make every single policy or diplomacy will become successful? Because there's also that kind of background that
The
might
time for POI is up.
The reason is that why this soft diplomacy under the name of pop culture happens is because the way of modernization and globalization happens to this world, sir. Because the way that negotiation happens is a very archaical way in response to how diplomacy is already being evolved and onto our modernizing world. You cannot actually stand the fact that they're going to actually do these kinds of problems with old things, as how the proverb says. Modern problems need modern solutions. We said the modern solution that could actually fix the bad stereotypes and stigmas going on from my previous speaker is actually can be applied within pop culture itself, because people are already getting so evolved towards the time interval of time going to this, right? We said that the comparative is that which side will necessarily benefits both countries. We say that after the consensus is being made under the pop culture itself, we're going to meet the consensus within the countries that are being stereotyped and also the country that stereotyped this country. Because we said that we're going to accomplish world peace even better under our side. Because side proposition gave misconduct to this debate. The moment you actually met this diplomacy, you're going to actually gain a lot of people drew into your country. Therefore, if something like Korean Americans are going to be like assassinated and such, there's going to be a lot of people protecting these Korean Americans because they already engage into the pop culture, like the diplomacy itself within the scenario. We say side opposition wins the debate. Thank you.
Thank you. The second speaker from the opposition side of the House spent 7 minutes and 36 seconds. Next, I call upon the third speaker from the government side of the House. The floor is yours. The third speaker from the government side of the House. Are you there?
All right. Wait. I'm going for POI, just unmute your mic. Yeah, unmute your mic. Gender pronounce he, him. I'll be starting my speech in 3, 2, 1. Panel, I don't get why LO and DLO still want to be dismissive towards the motion that literally say this House regret the use of pop culture in soft diplomacy. This debate is never talking about hard approach versus soft approach at all, right, panels? They have been very dismissive towards our entire case that messed this debate whole up, right? But I'm going to talk about two clashes here. First of clash, why is it unjustified to use pop culture in soft diplomacy? And second clash, which side benefit countries more that doesn't need to use pop culture at all, right? But then first clash, why is it unjustified to use pop culture in soft diplomacy, right? I have proven to you two things my team has done, right? Firstly, we talked about the interest of artists that is the actor on this, right? We need to protect them because they're the ones who's going to be acting all this, right? They simply join art and pop culture to want to entertain and have freedom of expression, right? And not being used by the government on actually picking a stance, which will happen under opposition. Because realize under opposition, this pop culture is going to be used by the government to make a certain country attractive, right? This is where the artist's choice and interest isn't going to be seen. This looks like how in Korea, for example, there are a lot of people and they have a lot of different stances in politics, right? But are forced to make music and told to pick a stance that appeal to, for example, Republicans, for example, because the majority of that country is, for example, conservative, and they have to make music that is based on conservative ideologies, right? Where literally not everyone in Korea, for example, is conservative at all, right? But secondly, we prove to you how it disincentivizes people then to become an artist, because then pop culture is not going to be used to entertain, but it's talking about political. And when you enter pop culture, you're going to have to pick an ideology stance that is going to be controlled by the government. But before that, yes.
How are you going to actually protect the likelihood of your side to say that basically these people are like the consensus is being made within the diplomacy under negotiation?
Okay, panel, if there's negotiation, then I don't get their case at all, right? And then if they have negotiation, what if the artists reject? How is their proposal going to be effective, right? I still question that. No analysis at all. But then what do you get in response? First of all, when they told you that artists prepare to face consequence already, government already told the artists to prepare for the consequence. Two responses on why this fall. Firstly, I think this was a clear generalization coming from opposition, right? It was never enough to literally say artists are prepared to face the consequence and government already told the artists and whatnot. Realize, panel, if this was the case, panel, then the world we're living right now, all artists are told to make songs to have a political stance, right? Because you're already told to face the consequence of politics. But realize this doesn't happen at all, right? Literally Taylor Swift, Katy Perry, Shawn Mendes, and all these huge artists don't make songs about politics, right? I still question under this in the House on why, for example, government telling, oh, you should be prepared for facing politics problems and etc. exists and likely, right? But second response, even if artists are told to face consequence, panel, then it just means like opposition concedes to our harm, but they're letting artists actually be harmed, right? They're okay on artists facing consequence because the artists are already told to actually face consequence. I'm really confused by this logic. Like literally, if you can have politicians just doing all the diplomatic stuff, which they are already ready in the first place, why do you have to include artists that do not have any politic backgrounds, right? We still question the likelihood on why artists are actually prepared to have to actually dive into politics, right? Because realize we never have pop culture, right? We never have pop culture in politics, right? We told you in the beginning we're using other alternatives, right? This means now the alternative alternative exists are like politician and all existing alternative, right? Because we don't want any pop culture and artists anymore, right? This is better because this is the job they choose to, right? The politician, they choose to major in politics in university. It was based on their consent and their background, right? That they choose in university. They have an educational background that we see the moment they join politics, they are devoted in politics. They are ready to accept all the political problems, right? But look at the artists, right? They were literally just singing, dancing, and making music and movies, and they face all the artist problem. But now you add more pressure on political problems, right? That looks like how like conservative now actually protesting to the artists, right? On how like literally Republicans and like liberal now protesting to artists and pop culture, right? They're going to add a much pressure, which we don't get why this is okay to be experienced by the artists, right? Really dismissive and defensive coming from their side of the house. It's already too late on making up another analysis on the whip, right? But then we win the first clash, right? Because we're actually protecting the choice of people to actually not share, for example, their stance. For example, if I'm liberal, I don't have to make music. I don't have to make a conservative music if I'm an artist because I'm living in Indonesia, right? They can have their own stance. They don't need to, for example, be forced on actually supporting one stance. We protect this side opposition actually forces people because it's going to be controlled by the government on attracting a certain country that's huge. There's going to be a like majority people. They have to protect the majority, right? But then second clash, which side benefit the country more using other alternative, right? We told you firstly how we protect the most vulnerable actor, right? We don't limit free will, but secondly, you can get political power using other methods of diplomacy like negotiation and economic policy and all that, right? We never get why this is it likely. Like literally when we want to regret something, there's other alternatives that we're going to use, right? We don't get why this is unlikely to happen. But what do we get in response? When they told you that firstly, it's when they told you that, oh, they're going to have exchange of cultures and etc., right? Like Korean, learning Korean, etc. One response, panel, it's like opposition concede they will have exchange of culture, like people learning Korean, that it means there is going to be one culture being overshadowed, right? This looks like how just Korean are rising, but the culture of Indonesia isn't, which never been proven. The process analysis on why every country's culture is inherently protected when it's being contested to attract countries in terms of politics, right? This means the identity of people and culture of a country is going to be contested, right? This looks like how one culture is going to overshadow one culture. This is likely because only strongest culture wins, right? Which already been proven by my DPM, right? The one that looks very significant and attractive and only exclusive to countries with huge pop culture that is most likely coming from developed countries, right? Because they have a huge technology, have a huge like creative system and etc. But then the identity of a country that's overshadowed is going to be it's going to be gone, right? Because it's going to be trumped by another identity of a country. Panel, then I think said opposition is actually removing and overshadowing identity of a country that is needed, right? At least under outside the house, for example, if we don't have comparative advantage and in economy, at least we still have pop culture. At least our people still can taste how beautiful our pop culture is without, for example, experiencing the globalization of like Korean industry in every world, right? At least we never contest it. At least we never want to overshadow it. At least we never want to contest it. That doesn't lead to any overshadow at all, right? Because we're not trying to make it attractive. We never want to compete in attractiveness based on pop culture, right? But then when they told you, secondly, pop culture influenced a lot of people. First response, this is not effective at all. What the government is trying to forward is their international agenda, right? Like relation with other countries. The viewers of pop culture are usually society, even teenagers. We question how can they work on the government agenda, right? It requires a government to government discussion through negotiation that can only happen under our side of the house because we never want to use like literally the pop culture, right? Comparatively, at least there is still a comparative advantage of a culture that isn't overshadowed in status quo, right? We have this in the first place. But then we also even though we are weak in economy, at least there's comparative advantage that people can have, which is their pop culture. We never want to compete and make one overshadowed. So proud to win this debate.
Thank you. The third speaker from the government side of the House spent 7 minutes and 28 seconds. Next, I call upon the third speaker from the opposition side of the House.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes, you are audible.
Okay, so for my POI preference, I prefer you guys to unmute yourself and interrupt my speech. And for the gender pronouns, I prefer she or her. So, let me set my timer first. starting my speech in 3, 2, 1. Which one do you like? Selena Gomez collaboration with Blackpink or America president literally negotiating with South Korea president that will only lead to political tension, right? Judges, we believe that the harsh generalization on side government exists. They think that by us letting this pop culture as the media to actually represent soft diplomacy, that we actually they think that we actually going to push all of the artists to make songs about soft diplomacy or movies about diplomacy, right? Panels. We never say that we will push these artists to only make diplomacy songs or whatnot, right? Two things I'm going to do on my speech. First about which side is more justified, and secondly, of course, which side made better relationship between countries, right? Because that is the point of this whole debate, right? Moving to the first point about first thing that I'm going to explain about which side is more justified. I'm going to do four things about in this clash about why pop culture. Secondly, utilizing the why we're not utilizing the actors, and thirdly about their alternative, and fourthly about the overshadow people. Overshadow people's culture, right? Moving to the first thing I'm going to explain about why pop culture, right? On my first and second speaker, we already stated to you that we said that globalization exists. Tons of fans of pop culture exist. Previous content in these pop cultures exist that have gained tons and tons of fans, right? Meaning that the cover of viewers is more huge and safer rather than other alternative that they've proven to you, right? Ladies and gentlemen, why we want this pop culture to actually implement it soft diplomacy, because this is the safer way to actually protect the countries and the society within the status quo, even if they gave us alternative like economic policy or even negotiating, right? Second response is I'm going to respond to their about their argument about where the side that utilizing the actors. Notice that panels, we say when artists want to apply to play in a soft diplomacy film, they already have a trigger warning for the very first place. This is a fact that you can't neglect the government. The artists are doing this with their own consent and not by getting pressured by our side, right? But B, it is less likely for Hollywood to hire an artist who is not aligned with the soft diplomacy movies, right? You wouldn't hire a famous Asian actor to play inside a liberal American theme movie, right? Therefore, their case falls on their side. But then, no, thank you. But then another, they gave us an alternative like negotiation, for example, right? Notice that negotiation and economic policy is hard to do between countries, right? Why? Why? Because countries need to make appointments, meaning that more time and money need to be used. But even if the countries are able to do negotiation, negotiations. I want to explain to you. For example, if the super country America does negotiate, this will affect other countries' awareness. For example, the super country America even negotiate with Russia. Is Russia really that dangerous, for example? Meaning this will only worsen bad stigma about certain country on your side of the house. Why? First, moreover, this lead to your side creates layers, levels of of countries, superpower countries, and other, for example, right, ladies and gentlemen? But secondly, our side solved this. For example, Rich Brian collab with American artists and our side, right? Our side will not create layers, levels of countries, right? That on their side, there will be worsened, their alternative will be worsened and not safe for these countries, right? And then they say that, there's third speaker said in the last minute of his speech that, it will overshadow people culture. Notice that people are educated, right? They never explain why this will happen. This is a one-liner for them. How come people are learning people's culture, then forget where they are coming from, right? And then second thing I'm going to bring to this
before that
speech, right? Yeah.
You said that the artists are being heads up by the government regarding the outcome of diving into politics. Then what is the likelihood of artists actually want to dive into politics if they don't have the education of politics background?
If they do want to dive into the politics circuit, right, then companies like Hollywood will filter them, right? They will choose actors and artists out there that actually knew about politics, that knew about diplomacy and knew about about like international relationship, right? Companies will, like even Hollywood, big names companies will not just randomly choose artists to play in a soft diplomacy country, right? But then moving to the second clash about which side made better relationship between countries, right? I'm going to explain about the political tension on this clash, right? We say that their side worsened political tension, right? Why? Because first, their alternative is aggressive and not a soft approach one, right? Because I explained to you, negotiation will make other countries awareness, like my example that I gave you to earlier, right? But then secondly, they give the countries the opportunity to choose soft diplomacy with other ways or even hard diplomacies, right? We tell you that countries will not choose soft diplomacies with other ways because it is so conservative and it is so hard to do anyways. And the other thing that countries will actually do, choose to represent the diplomacy is for them to choose the pop culture or even the hard way, right? We ban the hard way, we ban the diplomacy with other ways. We only provide you that pop culture is the best way to actually represent soft diplomacy, right? What on their side, on the worst case, that our countries will going to choose hard diplomacy on their side because it is more easy to do. Like you just set up couples of soldiers that going to assault Iraq, for example. You're gonna assault other countries in Asia, for example, right? This is more likely for them to do to gain famous amongst countries, right? Because we know hard diplomacy have a huge viewers and to gain famous to gain title of the country, but it is not safe. It is not safe. It pays blood and any other disadvantage that we don't want. This is why we believe that pop culture is the best way to represent soft diplomacy, right? Because it is more safer. Our team proved to you that second, we're not utilizing these actors and actresses, right? We're not utilizing them. They do it on their concern, right? And secondly, what I have told you in my in the POI that we are not going to like randomly choose actors that doesn't know about international relationship at all, right? But thirdly, we prove to you why their alternative false and never going to be effective on their side. And fourthly, we give you explanation about why we better on relationship between the countries. Therefore, so proud to oppose. Thank you. Kak, I think you're muted, Kak.
Sorry, my laptop freeze.
All right, I will be taking over since there seems to be a problem with the laptop of our moderator. The last speaker spent 7 minutes and 30 seconds. Please give me some time to share my screen.
Sorry for the delay. The third speaker from the opposition side of the House spent 7 minutes and 30 seconds. Next, I call upon the reply speaker from the opposition side of the House. The floor is yours.
Wait, yeah. Second, let me set my timer. Kak, there's still the sound of azan in my school. Is it okay if we wait after the azan is already done? It will disturb my audio. Hello?
The committee, I think it's okay. We just wait it out.
Okay, thank you, Kak.
Please inform us if the azan is done.
Hello, Kak. The azan is already over. Hi, am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Okay, I'm gonna start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Tak kenal, maka tak sayang. The moment you be friend with somebody, you'll never ask somebody their way of knowing, and it's never about negotiating. It's about knowing the qualities of them. They want to know you. That is what this motion actually wants to achieve in the very first place. Not that we wanted to talk about hard diplomacy as how side proposition catch what we want, what we say in this debate. They set themselves on their mechanism that they won't limit countries to choose between hard and soft. And guess what, panels? They never told us any of the alternatives would necessarily work onto their side. First point I'm going to point out is that how the lack of analysis onto the results of a negotiation was never elaborated furthermore under their side. Notice, panels, that the benefits that you're going to achieve within the soft diplomacy leans more onto ourselves, the house. Because of what? Because of the alignment within globalization towards on how my first, second, and third speaker have already given a very big emphasis on towards you, and how it will like benefit both countries, etc. Therefore, we create a mutual intelligibility for these people to create a more viable solution to the the diplomacy itself. The benefit afterwards, the consensus being met, they only said that basically peace, just that. Their only goal was only to redact the problems. I never hear that the main aim on side prop was to achieve world peace and create a more sustainable world where there wouldn't be any misconduct, on how there wouldn't be any more political tensions being made. Instead, we give you benefits on the long run, and how we would draw tons of people to be interested in these marginalized countries, on how we will necessarily make them know our cultures, and not to think on how we would the stereotypes that definitely stereotype us in the very first place. We desensitize all of these countries, desensitize all of these countries to be friend with us, and therefore we're going to after of our further explanation and analysis, we're going to create a better world where there will be no more political tensions, no more wars. Everyone will be friends, and everyone will actually create a more mutual intelligibility in terms of exchanging their cultures and how they would draw people. They never even engage with our globalization case. They only told you their main case was only negotiation, and therefore we are, and they said that we are oppressing the artist itself. I already stated it pretty clearly in my speech, even in my first speaker speech, that he never actually explained to you that we would actually make this artist to choose their political stances. My third speaker have already told you onto her speech that they know the terms and conditions that would happen into this artists that are being selected onto their representation itself. We say that there are examples of how they would like marginalize countries and political tensions wouldn't work under the terms of negotiation. Let's talk about how Red Velvet is going to South Korea. Red Velvet are, there has already been political tensions between like North Korea and South Korea for been like a very, very long time. But the way that this diplomacy happens is only through pop culture. You see that because a lot of people are being drawn onto pop culture, North Korea becomes more lenient to South Korea because they view South Korea as more of like a friendly country in the first place. They look them as being brothers and sisters rather than negotiating for like, I don't know, 40, 50 years, but still no results, no reunification at all. We say that the leaning diplomacy being brought by only using by using pop culture is more to the way how we would actually gain world peace and be friends with each other. Therefore, if you want to achieve world peace, be friends every countries with their own perspective uniqueness, vote for orangutans. We only came from the jungle. We oppose to this debate.
The reply speaker from the opposition side of the House spent 4 minutes and 1 second. Next, I call upon the reply speaker from the government side of the House.
Wait, am I audible now? Do I have to change my device again?
Sharon, I think it keeps echoing, so it's best to use the audio like before.
Okay, 1 minute.
Okay, am I audible now?
Yes, you are.
Okay, starting my speech in 3, 2, 1. Panels, I don't think I have to explain further why opposition loses debate at the very beginning, right? Opposition's side of the House shift the debate into a soft diplomacy versus hard diplomacy debate. Their whole case fall from the very beginning. Government stands and take this debate home, we win. They think hard approach is so harmful and just want to have soft approach, right? But never given a scenario on how soft approach can work in urgent problems like dictatorships, and that is solved using economic sanction, and Afghanistan using military intervention. Why side opposition wanting to use this soft approach is enough to tackle all political problems, right? Because at least under our side of the House, we never want to eradicate a hard approach or soft approach. But what we don't want is just a pop culture in the diplomacy. They misengage towards our case. They are being negligent toward the government side of the House speeches, talking about we give alternative by saying that they are freely able to choose other types of diplomacy. This shows you less engagement coming from the opposition side of the House, strengthen our case as a government, another reason why we stand and with this debate. Judge, note this. They only explain on how they can attract the pop culture to all people, but they never explain how this attraction can lead into a success diplomacy, for example, like international agendas. We pointed out that the most of the fans are teenagers who don't even hold a political power or any kind of diplomacy that would significantly change and work. It requires a negotiation with governments to governments that could only happen under our side of the House exclusively. Their whole benefits falls down at this point. They never proved to us also the actor in this debate, such as the artist as a vulnerable actor in the pop culture. regarding why they have this interest to want to dive into politics, right? Moving to my first clash, why is it unjust to include the pop culture into the diplomacy? Side opposition says that the artists are okay to dive into politics because the government already give a heads up towards the artist. We POI by saying what is the likelihood for the artist to join politics, but they say a massive, huge harm by which is by saying Hollywood will filter the artist, that the artist is the one knowing about politics. Panels, then what side op is doing is limiting the artist in status quo. That if you want to be an artist, you have to understand politics, right? Realize how pop culture and politics are two different things. We still question the likelihood of artists actually understanding politics, right? But even if there is negotiation and the artists don't want to hop into the politics, right? Then the artist will be lessened, right? And so your whole premise and benefits are not going to be sustained or even not going to be effective at the very beginning. Thank you so much. What if the artists really don't understand politics? In their worst scenario, there's no engagement. We told you how, at least our side of the house, the alternative that we use that exists are just politicians, that you don't use artists at all. Under our side of the house, at least we use people who are actually in understanding politics. Side opposition never want to respond to this. This is why it is unlikely. We also understand how opposition is always brought about the consent and discussion, right? Because we didn't neglect the opposition side of the house speech like how they did to us. They said there will be heads up, like, right? But also your whole premise is just being negligent towards our side of the house. There's less engagement. There's no exclusivity. We win this debate in the first clash. But also, we have also, moving to my second clash, talking about the benefit towards all actors, right? Now let's weigh this debate. In conclusion, we've explained that the rights of artists are being violated, right? There's no response from opposition, how the diplomacy through pop culture would work, because the ability of fans to lobby governments. Exactly because you brought about the examples of Red Velvet, there is no certain improvement in the conflict. South Korea, North Korea still tested nuclear. North Korea still tested nuclear for several times, trying to send threats to South Korea. We say it is not successful at all. But secondly, even when you can't buy our practical idea, we say that the violation to artists, right, is the most important thing in this debate, because we protect the most vulnerable actor who work hard but not being respected by the government. Instead, they are being limited with this whole, I don't know, radical and also, unimportant things like how they have to understand politics, right? While the diplomacy in the status quo is not an issue that's very urgent, because other mechanism like negotiation still work in the status quo, and it's being proven by the current status quo and by how we don't have any wars in the 1940s, and by those two clashes and reasonings, government bring this debate home. Vote for us. We win this debate. Thank you so much.
All right, the reply speaker from the German side of the House spent 4 minutes and 16 seconds. All right, that is all for the final round of the debate. Congratulations to all of the debaters. Educators, would you like to give some review? Okay, thank you.
Congratulations for the teams who made it into grand final, and it was an enjoyable debate. But maybe I would like to add something. In this debate, you are expected of three things. First, to picturize or characterize the importance of diplomacy and how, after all this time, the government utilized that diplomacy, either soft diplomacy through pop culture, or soft diplomacy through gastro diplomacy, traditional diplomacy, or communication from public to public, and they're in the interest of government in soft diplomacy. And then you have to prove the influence of pop culture in soft diplomacy itself, how pop culture plays into this matter, and then the effectivity of diplomacy that should be proven either by pop culture if you are the opposition, or effectivity of soft diplomacy by other means that has to be proven by the government side of the house. And I think I would like to add more context to this case. Maybe you are familiar with the way the South Korean government tried to include BTS on official meetings, maybe in the UN, and then they also invite Red Velvet into such important meeting on, or how, if you know a lot of Hollywood movies, there are literally propaganda for war in Middle Eastern, because you see a lot of US movies, especially in themes of Middle Eastern, they hire such actors and try to influence the people and the audience that this is their own good. They are the good one in Middle East. So there are a lot of things that happen in soft diplomacy, especially through pop culture. And the discussion, I think, should be whether or not we should regret the use of this pop culture in soft diplomacy, because there are a lot of means of soft diplomacy. And I think that is all for me. If I go too much, maybe I will reveal a lot of things, but important things to note is that the importance of diplomacy is really important to be pictured, and a lot of actors should be discussed, such as from the POV of the government, how they are capitalizing or using the soft power and especially pop culture to their influence, or how in the end of the day the actors such as the other countries relationship and the artists or the people that are involved in that pop culture itself should be defined. So thank you for the debate. The adjudicators will continue to deliberate.
Thank you so much, Kak.
Thank you, Kak.
Thank you for the great debate.
Thank you
Thank
so
you,
much.
everyone.
Thank you so much, everyone. What a final round. So I think both sides brought their best arguments, and it's time for the adjudicators to decide, to judge, and to examine the final round as a whole. While they're doing their job, we could utilize 30 minutes of our time to take a break. And again, don't leave this Zoom meeting, but you could go anywhere in your place right now before we're going back online. See you guys in 30 minutes. Zoom. Please open your camera. Okay, everyone, time is up. It's been 5 minutes. You can open your camera so we know that you're back in front of your laptop, maybe. Okay, everyone, I'm so sorry. I just got information that the adjudicators need a little more time to decide some best speakers. So the result will be objectives. While we're waiting on that, the committee will share the music first. Sorry, and thank you.
Grammarly can help you write quickly and
kalau di stream ini lagunya setelah
kami di sini menunggumu bersama-sama menantikanmu.
kita ukirkan memori dalam hati. Ragam rasa akan terkenang kelak nanti. Mari semua bersukaria, lihat pesona indah Asia.
Bertukar rasa, bernyanyi riang, mari kita bersuka.
Semangat pesta lentera Asia, para nyanyian suara Asia, bersama menikmati irama-Nya, ikut terlarut dalam alunannya.
Meriahkan Bazkom Carasel 68, rayakan di Bazkom Spestasia. bersukaria, lihat pesona indah Asia. Bertukar rasa, bernyanyi ria, mari kita bersuka. Semarak pesta lentera Asia, para penyanyian suara Asia, bersama menikmati irama, ikut terlarut dalam alunannya. Meriahkan Bazkom Carasel 68, cipta kenangan bersama-sama kita. Semerak pesta lentera Asia, para nyanyian suara Asia, kemilau cahaya telah datang, hilangkan gelisah. Meriahkan Bazkom Carasel 68, rayakan di Bazkom Spestasia. Spestasia. Kami di sini menunggumu, bersama-sama menantikanmu. Kita ukirkan memori dalam hati, ragam rasa akan terkenang kelak nanti. Mari semua bersukaria, lihat pesona indah Asia. Bertukar rasa, bernyanyi ria, mari kita bersuka. Semangat pesta lentera Asia, para nyanyian suara Asia, bersama menikmati iramanya, ikut terlarut dalam alunannya. Meriahkan Bazkom Carasel 68, rayakan di
Okay, everyone. I see some of the participants are opening their camera. Maybe the committee would love to open their camera too, the adjudicators and observers. Okay, while we're waiting on that, I'm going to pass the floor on the adjudicators.
So are we going to announce who is the winner?
Yes, we will be announcing the winner, but I think I will be announcing them and maybe you can give some comments afterwards.
Okay, so I will have a little bit analysis of what happened during the previous debate in grand final, in which I will be announcing that the adjudicators that are adjudicating, there are three, which is me, Jupi, and Dion. And I would like to announce that it was a split decision to choose the winner. And we've agreed that there are three things that we consider into this debate. One is the importance of diplomacy and how government utilize it, and the importance of it really debated. And then the influence of pop culture, and also the effectivity or efficacy of diplomacy in both scenarios. And it was a split decision. And we believe that in the end of the day, what we would like to see is that how each side portray that pop culture should be regrettable, or we should utilize the pop culture itself. And so I think I will review it at just that, because all of the clash points, in my opinion, two of them goes into one particular team and the other only goes to one. So I will give back to Jessica to announce who is the winner.
All right. So I will be announcing the winners of all three teams today, because we do have three best teams, but I will also be announcing the top 10 speakers from all the other groups as well. So without further ado, let me share my screen.
And maybe the adjudicators, we would like to clarify one thing, that the way that we choose the second runner-up or the third place is based on the performance on semifinal, which team are better than the other team that break into the semifinals.
All right, is it already visible? Okay, so the winner of the final round is, get ready to react with your applause, guys. And we'll also have a quick picture after this. But the winner of the final round is Deputy Whips. Congratulations to Deputy Whips. Can all of you guys please turn on your cameras, and we'll have a quick photo session. To the committee, is it possible for us to pin them, to spotlight them, or not?
One member from Deputy Whips not opening your camera, so we can't spotlight you.
One of our team members are reconnecting with his phone.
All right, then I guess for now, while we're waiting, since they cannot be there, let's take a quick picture. Smile, guys. Maura, please take a screenshot and tell us when you're done.
Okay.
Thank you, guys, and congratulations once again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I will screenshot it in 3, 2, 1. One more time, 3, 2, 1. Congratulations, CBT Whips.
All right, now moving on to the second best team. That is, of course, congratulations to Orangutan. Committee, please spotlight the members of Orangutan so we can take a quick picture. Maura, when you're ready.
I'll check a screenshot in 3, 2, 1. Another one. 3, 2, 1. Congratulations, orangutan.
Congrats, guys. Okay, moving on, moving on. Third best team we have is Pfizer. Congrats, guys. Is Pfizer team here? I think we have at least one member here. Alia from Pfizer. Can the committee please, I think it's Alia, Gaitsa, and Elena, if I'm not wrong. Yes.
All right. Okay.
Sorry, I couldn't find Alia here.
Alia cannot turn on her camera. So sorry.
Oh, all right. Okay, then Maura, when you're ready.
Okay. I'll take a screenshot in 3, 2, 1. 3, another one. 3, 2, 1. Oh, sorry, there's a chat. Okay. Sorry, let's restart it. In 3, 2, 1. Congratulations, Pfizer.
Congrats, guys. All right, so top 3 teams are already here. Moving on to the top 10 best speakers. And I think, of course, some of them, at least most of them will be here from the existing teams. But I think we'll have a quick photo session with them as well. All right, first, the best speaker that we have for today is Giovanni Dimas Raditya Putra. Giovanni, are you there?
Yes.
Committee, please spotlight Giovanni. Yes, once again, Maura, when you're ready.
All right. I'll take a screenshot in 3, 2, 1. Sorry, there's a chat. Take a screenshot in 3, 2, 1. Congrats, Giovanni.
Congratulations. Second best speaker that we have is Gerald Federico. Is Gerald here today? Yes, he is.
Yes, I am.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, can someone please spotlight Gerald?
Gerald isn't opening.
I've opened my camera.
Okay.
Ooh, okay. Congratulations, Gerald and Maura. Please take a screenshot.
Okay. In 3, 2, 1. Congrats, Gerald.
Thank you. Congrats, everyone.
All right, all right. Moving on to the third best speaker, we have Sharon Nainggolan. Sharon from Deputy Whips. So someone please spotlight Sharon.
Okay. Gonna take a screenshot in 3, 2, 1. Congrats, Sharon.
Congratulations. Moving on, fourth best speaker, we have Karina Jocelyn Ulansari. Karinia, I'm sorry. Karinia Jocelyn Ulansari. Is she here today?
I don't think so.
All right, since Karinia isn't here, let's move on to the next best speaker, fifth best speaker, which is Altruir Danesh Ravindra from Deputy Whips as well.
His camera is off. Can you open your camera?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Okay. You're connected already. So, Maura?
I'm gonna take a screenshot in 3, 2, 1. Congrats, Altur. Sorry if I pronounced it.
Congrats, Danesh. Moving on to the sixth best speaker that we have is Angel Lim. I saw Angel Lim come in just now, so I think she's here. Committee, please please spotlight Angel. Oh, Angel, can you please turn on your camera if possible?
She's not responding.
Yes, someone please spotlight Angel.
Okay. Done.
Okay, gonna take a screenshot in 3, 2. Oh, Angel, can you turn on your camera? Okay. In 3, 2, 1. Congrats, Angel.
Congratulations. Moving on to the seventh best speaker, which is Firda Hanif Nurfadila. Is Firda here today? Seems like she's not here.
Not here.
Yes. Okay, so congratulations, Firda. But since she's not here, we won't be having a photo session, and we'll be moving on to the eighth best speaker. Eighth best speaker, we have Elena Yofita. Is Elena here?
Yep, Elena, can you turn on your camera? Okay.
Okay, gonna take a screenshot in 3, 2, 1. Congrats, Elena.
Congrats, congratulations. Ninth best speaker, we have Junior Zayan. Junior, please turn on your camera. Congratulations, you seem very surprised. Get ready for a photo session. Pose, pose, pose.
Okay. Gonna take a screenshot in 3, 2, 1. Okay, thanks, Junior.
Thank you and congrats once again. And our last best speaker is Nayara Damaris Putri. Is Nayara here?
Yep, she's here.
All right.
Okay, gonna take a screenshot in 3, 2, 1. Congrats, Nayara.
Okay, before we continue, there's a request from Deputy Whips because Danesh just turned on his camera. They want to retake a picture together. Is that possible? Okay, thank you.
Go ahead, guys, have your moment.
All right, gonna take a screenshot in 3, 2, 1. Another one. Okay, 3, 2, 1. Congrats, Beauty Whips.
Congratulations to all the winners that we have for today, for all the best teams and also best speakers. We're very proud of all of you, and we hope you've learned something from our event today. And giving the floor back to our MC.
Okay, first of all, congratulations everyone. And congratulations to Deputy Whips as the winner of Bazkom Spestasia English Debate Competition. You win 2 million rupiah of prize money, free mock test voucher in Wall Street English, and a certificate. Orangutan as the second place deserve 1.5 million rupiah for a free mock test in Wall Street English and a certificate. And for the third place winner, win 1 million rupiah of prize money, e-certificate, and free mock test in IELTS mock test in Wall Street English. For the best speakers, get 300,000 rupiah of prize money, free IELTS mock test in Wall Street English, and e-certificate. As for all participants, you will get free trials and discount class from Wall Street English Indonesia. And before we close this competition, I would like to ask you to open your camera to take a picture together as the participant of this in the Zoom. So
Guys,
fine.
The committee also wants to take photos.
Yeah.
Turn on your cameras. Okay.
Okay, if no one's opening their camera again anymore, Maura, you can just take the screenshot.
Okay, gonna take a screenshot in 3, 2, 1. Everybody smile. Take another one. 3, 2, 1. Another one. And 3, 2, 1. Okay, that's it. Congrats, everyone.
Congratulations. Thank you, Maura. Okay. To the co-champion and other teams, don't be discouraged. You did your best throughout this competition and give yourself some more rewards than you thought you deserve. On behalf of the committee, I thank you all for competing or observing. I thank the adjudicators for judging and giving some inputs. And I thank fellow committee members for your hard work to construct this event. Last but not least, we thank Wall Street English for sponsoring this event. If you're interested in improving your English speaking skills, whether it be in an informal or professional setting, go ahead and check out Wall Street English. They provide various English courses you can adjust it according to your needs. We are sorry if we did or said anything wrong throughout this event, either for technical or the attitude matters. We hope from this event, all and each of you get something meaningful to be remembered. As the end of the competition comes, once again, thank you for your participation and see you on Carasel Spestasia.
Thank you, guys.
Congrats,
Thank you,
everyone.
everyone.
Congratulations, everyone.
Congratulations, everyone.